everybody. And thanks a lot, Gasper, for the amazing music and setting up this Zoom panel. So everybody, welcome a lot at this demo session and of v0.6.0. My name is Eknir, and I'm today hosting this session. I'm doing it together with the rest of the developer team, a selection of those. You'll see some of the people who have been working on this, but I just want to mention that the team is bigger than only those people that you're seeing right now. There are more developers, and there's a whole organization organizing basically everything that we've been working for. So thanks for that. And also thanks a lot for being here. It really means a lot to us. So I'm going to share my screen, and I just would like to mention that it's meant to be an interactive session. So please, if you have questions, there's going to be 4 sections today. But if you have questions after one of the features, please, raise your hand, and I'm going to give you the microphone. So let's start. So, okay. The Swarm demo day today, 27/04/2021, we're going to release to demo the features of v0.6.0. For each feature, so this is for the upcoming weeks. So in the upcoming weeks, we're going to have a slightly different development cycle as we are normally having. So normally it might see that we are, we are really focused on developing the work, the things that we want to develop. So we haven't been interacting too much with you, but of course we have been seeing all the issues that you're making, and really thanks for that. So we intend to spend attention on those in the upcoming weeks to really stabilize Swarm and to have the impression that the retrieval and the pushing and everything just works as it is supposed to work, but then with a network of 40,000 nodes. So in order to facilitate that, we'll be having sessions as this session together with you. We're going to do demos. We also invite you to join us on testing sessions, actually to work together with us to validate our fixes, maybe even to coach you on developing on our client. And we're all going to do this in the beat testing channel in Discord. So if you're not yet there, please join this channel, and yeah, we're looking forward to collaborate with you. So then about the session of today, there's going to be 4 features which are going to be demoed. These are the 4 features of v0.6.0, which are most impactful for you as a user. But that's not everything, of course. There's also quite a lot of things which are happening under the hood. They don't really impact you a lot. Only maybe you have a better experience of the features you already know. But these are the features which actually change your experience of using B. So we're going to talk about pinning, about light nodes, about files and manifests, and about postage stamps. And if it doesn't say a lot to you yet, no worries, we're going to introduce each of those. So for each feature, we'll be speaking about the motivation for this feature, why we believe it is important to have this in place inside the B client. Then we demo it. We highlight the implications for you as a user of this feature. And there will be the possibility for Q&A. This is only the start. Right now we are working on documentation. We're working on more blog posts that detail all of this. We're going to do testing sessions, so there will be more than enough space to dive deeper into everything. But we have limited time today, so we stay on quite a superficial level. But yeah, as mentioned, questions are welcome, of course. Yeah, okay, so we do this mostly because we want to have feedback on you, on whether you believe these features add value to B. We also want to prepare you for v0.6.0, and we want to invite you to collaborate you and basically teach you on what we are working on right now. So then our first presenter, which is Peter. Peter, are you here?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
I do hear you, and I will stop my screen share, then you can take over.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, we see your screen. We see the terminal. But maybe you wanted first to go over the slides for the motivation, or do you want to go into the demo immediately?
Yes, I can go through motivation.
All right, go
So
ahead.
basically, yes, thank you. So basically, it boils down to unify the pinning under one resource because previously the pinning was just under almost every resource. Like for example, you have a byte resource or chunk resource, so you would do and query the pins directly under this resource, and this basically helps us work and just with the hashes instead of chunks and prevent users errors, and also users have a better experience. So yes, that's basically wrap up of the motivation, and let me do the demo. So okay. So as you can see, we have 5 windows here. In the window number 4, I will run the standalone B node. Okay, and let me query if there are some pins currently. As you can see, there are none. So, here at the first window, I will post some bytes and pin them. So basically the headers tells our API that the root chunk would be pinned, and it will return us the address of the root chunk. So as you can see, this is our reference. And if we query it now, so we will return us this reference. Also, if we want to check whether such a reference exists there, so we will basically do the get query on this point where after the slash goes the address of the reference. And if it's there, so it will return us the same address. If it's not, for example, it will return 404, which I can show you right after I delete this pin. So if I delete this pin, the pin is deleted, and if I query it again, so it will return us 404, which means that it doesn't exist. And if we list the pins, which will list all the existing pins, so it's also null. Okay, so that was demo, and the implications for pinning is, as I already mentioned, is a simplification of the whole API. Before that, we had different endpoints to manage your pin content. For example, bytes/pins or chunks /pin, and also we simplified the whole thing. Before, you could see also the pin counters, like how many times the pin the address was pinned, and now we don't leak this information anymore. And that's in short. So do you have any questions?
Yeah, so I think there is one question by Alexander. He's asking, does pinning via swarm pin double.true works in post files, or is it only for bytes?
it works for every endpoints, for example, /chunks and etc., where you can basically create the pins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was just an example, right? Which you gave right now, but it's like this for all the content. All right. So then one question by Lin. If it's possible to pin a CID that we don't have locally, will it pull the content and pin it locally?
CID, that I'm not sure. So I would.
Yeah, I can give an answer to that. So currently the pinning feature does allow what we call retrospective pinning. So basically this means that if you don't have content, if you would pin it, and if you don't have it, it tries to fetch it from the network. However, we don't advise to actually use it in that way. So if you don't have content locally yourself, what you would do is to first fetch it from the network, make sure that the operation succeeds, and then pin it locally. And the reason we advise to do it like that and not with the retrospective pinning feature is that if the retrospective pinning feature somehow halts in between, so you try to fetch something from the network and pin it immediately, if the operation doesn't succeed fully, you can come into some edge conditions, which is difficult to recover from. So that's why we advise to fetch it from the network. It's a separate operation, ensure it succeeds, and then pin it. Yeah, okay. So are there more questions? All right, and yeah, So about the gateway mode, so let me see, you ask indeed about the gateway mode, whether this is available in the gateway mode, the pinning.
Should not be available in the gateway mode, because you don't want users to be, if you're offering a gateway to users, you don't want users to abuse the gateway and clog the storage by pinning stuff. So that's why these things are unavailable in gateway mode.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true, but that's already was the case, right? So nothing changed there, but yeah. Okay, then Peter, could you please go to the next slide just as a memory for myself? Who is next? Yeah, not this one, not this one. Yeah, okay, that is Anatol. Well, thanks a lot, Peter, for the demo, and I would like to invite then Anatol on the stage, who has been working on light notes.
Yeah, no
Are you here,
problem.
Anatol? Yep.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi there. Yeah, we hear you. Yep.
I wasn't sure if my Zoom is going to. All right. So let me quickly share. In just a second.
Many windows, right? Let's see if it's going to work. Otherwise, I can maybe share my screen so you can talk while I'll share my screen if it works.
The window doesn't pop up, the one that would allow me to share.
Let me share my screen. Do you see this?
Yep.
Okay, then you can just talk. Because you also need to share your screen for the demo. Well, okay, yep. So you have some time to figure it out. Let's talk about the motivation.
Yeah. I will. All right, thanks. So yeah, light nodes. We needed this functionality because we want B instance to be able to run in low resources environments, IoT devices, mobile, among the few that comes to my mind. Additionally, we wanted to improve network stability. So as we have a lot of nodes joining and leaving, that has a certain cost on the network stability. And by having this light node by default, we would lower the churn and improve network stability. These are two major motivations for light nodes. as I mentioned, by default, a B instance will start in light node. And now I'm going to try to show you how that would look like.
So I have one question for you.
Sure.
How do you define a light node?
So by a configuration parameter, just as a B is working now, you can provide it via a command line or add an entry to your configuration file, configuration YAML.
Yes, true. But what I'm always thinking of, like, what is the properties of a light node as opposed to a full node?
Certainly. So the biggest differences is that a light node does not have a persistence. It will not engage in a set of interactions that are normal for a full node. For instance, its address is not going to get advertised. It's not going to be forwarding. So an implication that I'll mention it later is that a light node will lose the plausible deniability, since without forwarding, it will be the sole issuer of the request. So, and yeah, the biggest difference is that without persistence,
So
it
let's see if
be...
we can do the demo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I also have it in the beginning. If you are having a tiling window manager, this pop-up might pop up somewhere else.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to look for it.
Now I regret not having some screenshots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not coming up. Should I leave and rejoin?
Yeah, or maybe let's do this demo at afterwards. We go to the next section, and then the demo from you we'll do it at a later point. Okay.
Sounds good. If you could share again the latest slide.
Let's. Yeah. So see that my internet connection is not very stable right now, but let's go to the next section, Anatol, and then we do your demo afterwards. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right, so yep, the next person is Alok. Alok, are you here?
Yeah, hey, can you guys hear me?
Hey.
Hello.
So let's
Yeah,
see if you can share your screen.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, so we'll move on to this section, files and manifest. So yeah, so the primary motivation behind this is we had like lots of different APIs to upload content. Like we had files, then we had directories, and then we wanted to sort of simplify these APIs. And also we used to use some legacy data structures to maintain the metadata. These are like, I'm not sure if you guys are exposed to these structures, but we had them in the back end. And we have this concept of manifest, which we had implemented, which is like a much more optimized way of storing this metadata. And it has like better lookup capabilities to find like files within directories. And also scales really well. So we plan to use this manifest for all kinds of content in the backend. So the current in the current API, as we were doing a breaking change, we plan to do this entirely. And what it leads to is like a better user interface, which is just a single API to upload your files and directories. and then use the same endpoint to serve them or download them. Okay, and I think so. I'm not sure if are you guys still seeing the browser screen? Or
We see your terminal.
okay, okay. Yeah, so I've sort of created a video of the demo because it involved a lot of working pieces. So, I mean, right now we just go through the video and we create like a B node. And what we are essentially doing is uploading files. So, okay, so before we go through this, so what this actually means is when we add new manifests, like as we move to the newer versions, all your old content, which is sort of uploaded with this legacy metadata, that will stop working with the new API. And the way you will sort of fix those references is by using a repair utility, which we will provide. And this repair utility is essentially creating this new metadata entries for your content. And once you get the new reference from it, you should be able to serve your content as if nothing ever happened. So the demo is basically uploading some files. So we are using the Swarm CLI utility. We are uploading a single file, which is like a PDF. And this is like a directory which has a bunch of photos in it. And we get the hashes. So these are probably what you have right now with your content uploaded. And this is just like serving it on the locally on your B node. So you would download this file, which is just a PDF. And same way you could look at the uploaded directory, you can browse the different files in it. So this is all existing functionality right now. And yeah, you could basically on the BZZ endpoint, you could traverse your entire directory. Right now, there is one directory missing, so I'll add that directory name. And yeah, and this is the image that was uploaded. So now we are upgrading the B endpoint. So this is now running the latest version. And the content will no longer be available now on this node because it's sort of expecting the newer metadata. And so this is the repair utility. This will be provided as a separate binary, which can be downloaded. And then these right now that has like two commands, one for like fixing your files and one for fixing your directories. So yeah, you would run it like just give it the old reference and it will in the backend will go to your node and figure out which file it has to update, and it will give you a new reference, which you see here. And similarly, if you give it the directory, it will browse through all the directory and update all the metadata. So with these new references now, you should essentially do the same thing, go on the BZZ endpoint, and as you see, this is a file that you uploaded. This is the same PDF file, which is available on the BZZ endpoint now on the new reference. It's not really moving any data. It's keeping the content of the data as is. All it's doing is just updating certain metadata required. And yeah, so the directories and files both work. Yeah, so we go through the implications of this is as I said, it's a breaking change. So right, going ahead, there's a question on the chat about files API. So it's no longer there. You should be using the BZZ endpoint to upload your data. And so BZZ endpoint now takes in both files and directories. There is certain headers that we've added. So the API spec will be updated. So there is a Swarm collection header which you can specify. This will basically consider whatever content you sent as a collection and try to upload it as that. And yeah, and then you should use the BZZ reference endpoint to download the single file instead of the files API. So files API is no longer there. And yeah, and all the content up to 0.5.3, unfortunately, we would have to repair using this repair tool. There's no way around it. Like we sort of wanted to move to the manifest world as soon as possible. So this is sort of an inconvenience regretted. Yeah, and then there'll be some API spec changes, so look out for those. So the different ways you can use the BZZ endpoint to upload files or directories, and there's like updated spec. So look out for that. Okay, so we move on to any questions.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Alok. So I have one question from Lynn. He's asking, why would only need to do the repair if we have files in the swarm that we want to recover in 0.6.0? We would only need to do the repair if we, okay. So he's asking if you only have to do the repair if you have files in swarm that you want to recover into 0.6.0.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the references that you had after you uploaded the file or the directory, these references will basically stop working with the BZZ endpoint. And in order to fix that, we provided the tool.
Yeah, just to clarify, right? So the content will still be there. It's just
Yes.
the metadata, the kind of the manifest chunk that needs to change.
Yes.
So you need to refer to it in a different way. So you have a different content
Yes.
address, but the content, in fact, will stay in the network, right?
Yes, yes. The
And that's
content
what
essentially, yeah, remains the same the way you uploaded before. Yeah, it's just the metadata stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Thanks for that. So, and then another question by Philozom. He's asking, did the content type header disappear, or did the browser download the file instead of playing it? Or why? He's asking why. Yeah, the PDF, it was downloaded in the PDF and not displaying it in the browser. I think this is
Okay. So
something like
yeah,
the Swarm CLI,
yeah,
right? That just does it this way.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Swarm CLI uploads it in a specific way, but yeah, whatever the support we had for content type is still there. It's just this additional headers that could be used to make it a collection instead of a file.
So
Yeah.
all the
So if you
functionality
uploaded it,
persists.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I was talking while you were talking. Please go.
No, yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, the way the Swarm CLI is different. Yeah, that's the way I used it in the demo. But yeah, pretty much the functionality what we had before on this will continue.
I think Attila is typing something in the chat.
Yes.
Can you confirm that?
After this, yeah. So the one I'm using, this was pretty for the demo. I wanted to create data in the old format, so I was using the old versions, and so that I could demo the repair utility. But yeah, I mean, once we upgrade, it will support the new API.
Yeah, and I think also what Attila is referring to is that the Swarm CLI, we are working extensively with Attila. Attila is the product owner of the BGS team. So we are working in tandem with them. So the Swarm CLI will support also these new endpoints. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Are there any more questions? Well, comments, maybe let's see Q&A. Yeah. Okay. I think then that was it. Let's thanks Alok for the demo and for the work. And Anatol, shall we try it again? Anatol, are you here? I don't hear you. Anatol, this is the last time I try. Otherwise, you go on later even.
Sorry, what about now?
Yeah, now we hear it.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was
worries.
unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we see your screen.
finally.
Yeah.
So again, so light nodes from a user perspective should behave the same as a full node. However, there are a few things that we introduced, and well, a very small one is that when you start a light node, you will see a certain entry in the logs that will tell you the operation mode. So it will look like this. By default, it's going to be saying starting in light mode. If, however, you pass the appropriate command line argument, which is full node equals true, it will pick it up. It will start in the full node mode. The exact same behavior is going to be achieved by adding an entry into your config YAML file, which corresponds to the command line argument, which is full node, and you set it to true. If it's missing, it's going to be false, starting in light mode. Another small addition is the Debug API. Now it has a new entry when requesting the topology. At the bottom, after all the bins, there is a new section called light nodes. If your node is participating in the wider network, it's going to be populated appropriately, and you're going to be able to have an overview of the light nodes in your neighborhood. And from the user perspective, that's about it. Everything else should behave the old way. And that's the demo. It's not much. Questions? Open.
Yeah, so I have one question. This is okay, so I'm running my B and I installed my B via the package manager, and I understand right now that the default value is going to be false. But if node operators were just running B and expect to earn GBCC, right, they would naively update the package. And right now, is the package default also going to be light mode, or is the package default going to be a full node?
The default is going to be a light node. This is why we have to announce community-wide, to make a community-wide announcement to have this configuration in place, this config value in place. Otherwise, they will not be eligible for swap incentives.
Yeah. And the reason for that is that we want to reduce the churn, right? So that's why the default should be light mode. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the primary reason.
Cool. I think Ilad, you're putting up your hands. Maybe
yeah, true.
You go ahead.
I wanted to jump in and stress out. So the default mode of operation is changing, and that means that for everyone who runs a full node will have to change their configuration for continuing to run as a full node after this version is rolled out. So this probably is particularly relevant also for our support team. So this information gets propagated to the community properly, and that everybody are aware of this, because this is kind of a biggie. So we will have to basically inform people about this change. It's quite a significant one in the mode of operation, but this is we see this as a beneficial thing for the entire network, and so that's why we also are adamant on pushing in this particular approach. So yeah, I just wanted to add this.
Yeah, very valid. Thanks, Ilad. So I'm also copying a message which Xio was already answered in the chat, but maybe you can also answer it, Anatol. So this is about whether the light nodes still receive messages with pool sync for the PSS Trojan chunks.
Yes, one of the requirements was to keep supporting PSS. So in this regard, as well in many others, a light node will behave like a full node. So PSS supported.
Okay, thanks. I see. Are there more questions around this? It's because it's a bit scattered. So because the questions were already from before, so I need to search for it. Lynn, you're writing, given that the Hive operators that seem be running overloaded host, I think requiring individual action is worthwhile. Is this a question or just more of a statement? Just a comment. Okay, okay, all right. Good. Then more questions for Anatol? No. Okay. Well, Anatol, thanks a lot for the demo, and no worries that there was some troubles in the beginning. I think it was a good demo. So thanks for the explanations as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So then we come to the last section, if I'm not mistaken. And actually, this section I'm partly presenting because Victor couldn't be here right now. Let's see. This is about the postage stamps. Yeah. So the postage stamps, it's something we've been talking about already before. If you've been following our communication, it's really a feature that we've been working on for quite a long time, maybe more than a year or so. It was first researched and we implemented it right now for the very first time. So it's a great moment. It's really for us as a team as well. But what are these postage stamps and why do we need them? Actually, it's a very important reason, because right now node operators, when they get content via Swarm, eventually their storage is filled. So they need to decide what content to keep and what content to throw away, basically. And how it's working right now is there is some sort of first in, first out queue. So node operators, they just throw away everything that was last accessed. Now, that works kind of fine, but it leaves open a very important hole, which is like, what happens if just one day we have been operating the Swarm network and somebody comes in and just starts to upload a lot of data. Basically, you can flush everything that was in Swarm. So we need to have some sort of a credible signal for uploaders, basically to signal how much it is worth for them to have a chunk in the Swarm network. And then once we have that signal, then node operators can look at that signal and decide based on that what chunks to persist and what chunks to garbage collect. So that's the essential reason actually for having this feature. And yeah, related to that, what I already mentioned, it prevents the network from persisting junk chunks, and especially from persisting those chunks over like more valuable content. And also, Swarm obviously is still evolving, and we envision basically the storage incentives, which is that this money, which is being paid in right now, it's being burned. But eventually we want to distribute this money to the node operators. So they're not only making money from helping other nodes in retrieving and uploading this content, but they're also making money just from being in the network and storing chunks, basically. Now, this is still research. We're still working on that, but we do believe that the postage stamps is a very important first step in that direction. So that's also why we have it in right now. So the postage stamps on themselves, they are living on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, the testnet right now. So there is an interaction with the B nodes with the blockchain. Also, there's an interaction of the user with the blockchain, and yeah, that's basically how this credible signal is being created. Elad, are you here?
I am indeed.
All right, so I will stop my share, and please add anything you want to the motivation, and otherwise just go with the demo.
Yeah, so I think it's as Rinka said. So yeah, the main motivation is spam protection, basically with postage stamps. That that's the kind of initial entry point, but then continuation of that would be also transforming this model into a model of revenue sharing in the future. So looking forward into the future, we're seeing that this burned value is redistributed to store nodes. That being said, that's not really a trivial problem, and we are actively researching this, as we mentioned. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell. And I will try to share my screen. Let's see if this works. So.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, so I did not record my demo, so I hope that it works out fine. I did my usual sacrifices to the demo gods. I hope they've accepted my humble contributions. Basically, so I mean, this demo, you've seen it before probably. The stuff that you haven't seen before is, and actually this is a bit more tricky to demo, but is the fact that we've actually wired in the garbage collection to take into account the postage stamps. So when you upload something, you would buy a postage stamp, and then you would attach that postage stamp batch ID to your upload, and upload as you would normally do. This is the batch ID that you get when you basically create a postage stamp. But you will also hear postage stamp terminology, sometimes referring to this as a postage batch, sometimes as a postage stamp, but they are in fact the same thing in a sense, which is basically the eligibility of a certain key to sign off chunks and upload them into the network, in a nutshell.
So what did you do just now? Like you did a command. What did that command do?
So that buys a postage stamp. The B node will actually buy it right now for you. So there's no way around it. You will have to buy your own postage stamps. So we're working on a scheme where postage stamps, parts of a postage stamp can actually be delegated to others with a certain signature. That's upcoming. We will wishful thinking have this for 1.0, and we're working on this actively. Most of it is actually written already. But right now you have to buy your own batches, and you have to do this using the same key which stamps the chunks. So the identity must be the same. So essentially, right now your identity is attached to the stamp, to the actual chunks when you send over the network. Now, the B JavaScript CLI will also support this. So this is in the making, and you will be able to buy your postage stamps through the CLI tool. I'm not entirely sure to which degree this is automated, but I'm not sure if you when you just upload something, then it buys the postage stamp for you automatically. I guess that the JavaScript guys could elaborate to a certain degree.
Maybe after your demo, we can ask Attila what he's working on there.
Yeah, correct. So I will just quickly do something here. So
yeah, so you just created a file, right? And right now,
yeah, and now we would like to add the swarm postage batch ID to it. Let me just double check real quick the header name. postage batch ID, yeah. And that would be this thing here.
So are you attaching one postage stamp, or how is it, like, just to
So you're
differentiate
attaching
between batch
the
and stamp?
batch. So you're no. So let's talk. So we are attaching one batch, and that batch has a certain capacity, which is determined here in this API call. So we basically have a batch depth. So when you buy a batch, you basically attach a certain value to it that's determined by the first number here, the amount, and then you determine which size of batch you're buying here. So that's the batch depth, and basically the batch is intended to have a capacity of around 2 to the depth that is specified here, of capacity of chunks. Now, this is not entirely accurate, because the actual chunks which are stamped within a batch, they are subdivided into buckets in the same way kind of that the buckets of Kademlia work. And so the distribution could be, so it's uniform, but it might be that you fill up a batch earlier on a certain bucket faster than you would fill a different bucket. Therefore, the batch might seem to be full, but it in fact has a few more slots, but you will not be able to fully utilize it. I think that's kind of it. Let's see. Yeah. So that was a bit too fast, no? Yeah, okay, because the content like this. So, that's missing here, that's why. Okay, so that's our reference here, and everything is okay. Thank God. Okay, that's so basically that's how you would upload to your B node. Again, as you would normally would, and you just need to attach this header once you buy your batch. Also, bear in mind that the amounts here, you should actually have a look at the source code before you start using this. I would advise. We would try to we will communicate the actual monetary implications of how the price of a batch is actually calculated. So it's not that you burn one token here, or it's not that you burn one part of a token, but it is the amount that you attach per chunk to the batch. So it's maybe not very transparent from this specific API call structure here, but we will communicate this, so you will know how much it's going to cost you. Yeah. Otherwise, maybe let's talk about are there implications? There are implications. Implications. So, yeah, you have to have a postage stamp when you upload something. No more uploading stuff, just stuff. Like, it has to be postage stamped, and the postage stamp has to be valid also. Basically, the content you could reason about more easily about its persistence over a longer period of time. But also bear in mind that once we actually start using this over the testnet, we're going to start seeing how the actual market dynamics here work. I mean, if we reach the capacity of the actual network, it means that the actual prices that people attach to their batches will start playing a role in the eviction of older content that was uploaded into the network. I mean, that's also how it's going to work on the mainnet, right? So the cheaper content will be evicted first, and the more expensive one will be evicted later. That being said, please don't burn all your GBDZ tokens because they are of limited amount. So I mean, we are not able to mint more. Once they are done, we were going to have to basically restart into a new network ID, I presume. But I think that rolling this out to the testnet will give us a much better understanding and a real experiment of how this is going to play out in the real world. So I very look forward to actually seeing this in action and seeing the dynamics of the transactions on chain that will actually hook up the garbage collection. I mean, we've been working on this for a really long time. It's really exciting time for us. Yeah, and obviously also as stated here, there is the deflationary power of the of GBDZ by burning them. So this is a token holder incentive that basically by burning the tokens out of the circulation. So we basically deflate the value of the token. This is, of course, not really, it's monopoly money, but yeah, this is part of the overall scheme right now. Yeah, I hope this was somewhat helpful and not very confusing. I think that Q&A.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Elad. So I would like to ask a first question. So what is happening with the content that is already in the network without a postage stamp?
So basically, this is also something that would need to be migrated. So I mean, theoretically speaking, people could still create content which is unstamped, but they're going to have to mess around with the source code to do that. But nodes on the network will not accept content which is not stamped anymore. Not for thinking anyway. Now, if you would like to also migrate your content to the actual storage incentive, so storage incentivized network, then you would have to export the content and to import and stamp it. So, I mean, this could be a bit of a painful process, to be honest. So, because you would actually have to export your content from the old node and then buy a postage stamp, bring up the node and import the content into it and stamp it as you upload, as you import, sorry. So if it's really important content, which I hope you still don't store on Swarm, then you could theoretically do that. But yeah, it's going to be a multi-phase process. So that's kind of unfortunate, but we have to have a certain degree of assurance before we move on with this. So yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
And just from the other side, right? I'm a node operator, and I'm already having my state store. It's full with chunks, and all those chunks are not stamped because they are from 0.5.3. So when I upload to 0.6, what happens with my state store? Immediately all going to be garbage collected, or will they still be around for some time? Or
no, your state store stays the same, but you will have to do some migrations in terms of your actual local storage, or like your chunk storage. I don't know if that answers the question.
okay, so sorry, I used the wrong context, but so the chunk storage, what happens with those chunks that I have been storing because I was a node in the network?
Well, if you would like to distribute those chunks, you would have to import and stamp them.
Mm-hmm.
So you will not be syncing these chunks to anyone.
You won't be syncing them, right? So
Correct,
they
yeah.
still stay in my node. So given
Correct.
fixed
And if
network
you-
topology, we'll be able to find them, but just no syncing anymore.
Correct. And if you would try to sync them, the other nodes will just not accept them.
Okay, faded. Okay, thanks. So Rodrigo, you've been asking some questions. Maybe if you want to just take over the microphone, if that is possible. Microphone to Rodrigo.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, well, the first question actually allowed a really answer, I guess. So like all uploads that I do now, I need to buy a postage stamp, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and but like who signed the batch can be like a key that I provide, or need to be the B node that is running?
Sorry, again?
Who buy the batch? It's and sign it. Need to be a specific key of the B node, or it can be any key that I provide?
It has to be, so the key with which you buy the actual, the same key that you buy the actual on-chain transaction with has to be the same key that you stamp the chunks with when you upload.
Okay, but don't need to be a key of the B node, can be any key.
Well, when you stamp the actual chunks, the B node stamps the chunk, so so it has to use the same key.
Okay. And if I pin a chunk in my node, can I can do that without using postage stamp, or no? Or what will happen is like we explained, like I can do, but I will not sync with the others.
No, so the API right now won't accept content which is not without the actual header for the postage stamp. If there's no header, it will just reject the request.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Cheers. And Koala, I think, also asked, where can we get postage stamps? So there's a contract. You can buy it from the contract, but the actual B node allows to buy the actual postage stamp for you. So it does all of the actual on-chain interactions for you. And
yeah, so maybe that's important to highlight, right? So the B node has a certain automation to purchase the batch and to get the batch ID and to attach it. But in principle, you could do all of these even more manual than what we give to you via the B APIs. But we believe that the APIs which we offer right now is a sensible type of automation which still can be used. We still envision that many things actually will be built on top of this to make the process easier to upload with the postage batch.
Yeah, and also, but bear in mind that if you actually do if you do the on-chain interactions via some other custom implementation or just some on-chain calls that you do with some other means, then you would still have to migrate the identity. So share the identity between the caller of the creator of the on-chain transaction and the B node itself. So you would have to either export the key from the B node and do the other interactions, on-chain interactions with it, and or find a way to import the key that you're doing the transactions with into the B node, essentially.
Yeah, so let's see, are there more questions? I'm going to the Q&A. Okay, so Philosome is asking, can you attach a postage stamp to an existing file and conversely remove one when the data is of no value to you anymore?
So we are actually working on a scheme where you could, as long as the stamp is valid and has value. So as we've talked about before, once the network capacity is reached, then the cheaper batches will start to get evicted from the nodes in the network. Now, in the new scheme that we're working on, you could actually reuse the same. So you could reuse parts of the batch for different chunks, and basically upload different content using the same postage stamp. And then what happens is that you could theoretically overwrite old content with new content. So I mean, it's not guaranteed that you actually overwrite it, because the old content might still be available if a node would like to actually hold on to it for monetary reasons. So if a node sees for whatever reason that holding on to data which it should actually get rid of. So if the node would like to hang on to this data, you have no way of actually affecting that. So even though this specific old content that was theoretically supposed to be overwritten, in fact, it's just downgraded to a kind of like a inferior storage tier, which would eventually precipitate its eviction out of the actual node storage, or in other words, have it deleted. So basically, the idea would be that you could reuse certain parts in the actual postage batch in order to override the old data. However, the overwriting per se as a concept is not guaranteed. So, I mean, you could assume that if everybody plays the same game, but if somebody just wants to operate their node saying, hey, I want to have this inferior storage tier to have an order of magnitude more storage than the other nodes for whatever reason that I find reasonable or not, then basically the old content would still be available, but it would still be downgraded to this inferior storage tier. So I hope that kind of answered the question, if not extremely more confused you.
All right, yeah, thanks. I have one question by Lin. He's asking, how do the postage stamps interact with global pinning, and or when might we see global pinning actually implemented and functioning?
So,
and this is the last question, so we are running over time. So this is going to be the last one.
So basically, these two things are kind of orthogonal. So postage stamps, valid postage stamps will be required for chunk propagation for syncing. So that's there's no, it doesn't, one does not affect the other. Global pinning actually implemented and functioning. I mean, it is implemented and it is functioning, but we need to do user experience improvements there. So there are some a bit more practical problems there, which we need solving to solve basically. And I very much hope that we can budget some time for this in the near future. However, bear in mind that once we can reason about the actual worth of a chunk in terms of the monetary value attached to it, be it monopoly money today or BZZ tokens tomorrow, we could more easily reason about storage persistence in general, or chunk persistence, sorry, and the actual expectation of whether a chunk should be where it should be or not, which is a bit more difficult to do today. So because the actual prioritization of which chunk stays in the local store today is kind of a bit more, let's say, is a bit arbitrary comparing to this scheme of postage stamps, then it's very difficult to actually say which chunk would persist over time. So rolling this out will give us better assurances, and you could actually, by looking at the actual chain state through a dashboard, let's say, which we hope to see soon. So you could say, hey, I already know that I bought this batch 6 months ago, and because the current state of the contract is this and that, I can safely assume the content is not there anymore. And it's also worth mentioning that we will also be launching more API endpoints to interact with this feature, which will namely be batch top up. So you could actually top up existing content that has been uploaded, and you could also dilute it. So I mean, like, even if you bought a batch which is supposed to contain a certain amount of chunks, you could increase that basically to however you may wish, and as long as you keep on burning tokens and you keep on and you dilute it, obviously, because if you just so you need to top it up and dilute it, specifically in that order, because if you just dilute it, then the actual value that it has will decrease. So I hope that also answered the question.
Yes, I think it did. And Victor, I think there is one more question. I'm sorry, I was looking at the bottom, but I didn't realize like actually the most upvoted question was on top. So let me just address your question, even though I said previous last. I see 5 upvotes. So you're asking, what is the price of 1 unit of postage stamp? How would this price change, and whether it is proportional to the ETH BZZ price? So I will answer it, and then Elad, you can chime in whenever you feel that is needed. But basically, the price of 1 unit of a postage stamp is what you mentioned in the API. So we don't fix a price. The price is whatever the user wants to pay for it, and you can see this as a bucket, right? So this is a balance on the contract, in the postage stamp contract, and this will dilute over time. So if you have your postage stamp online, the balance will decrease by time. So that's also, even if you have something extremely valuable, eventually it will get much less valuable and it will get garbage collected. So that's one way how this price will change. The other way is how this price will change is basically the relative price of your postage stamp compared to others. So of course, this is a market, and there will be people will bid against each other. So the more Swarm is being used, the more content, the more people want to have content in the network, we can expect that the price to actually store something in Swarm will increase. So that's the dilution per time unit. So that's how this is going to change. Right now, this is an oracle. So we are going to update this price whenever we see an increase or decrease in demand. But once we have the storage incentives redistribution in place, then actually the node operators themselves will be providing this information for this Oracle to serve. So then the price finding mechanism will be completely done also by the network. That's the idea. And yeah, Ilat, do you want to add something there, or Victor, did I answer your question? Okay, yeah, you can't answer, of course, because you're not a panelist, but okay. Ilat, was it a good answer?
Yep, I don't have much more to add.
Okay, cool. Then I think we can end the demo session. So let me actually share my screen because a couple of last slides. Yeah, so we did this, and yeah, this is the last slide. Actually, I would like to invite everybody here to join us in Discord, especially the beat testing channel. You can ask any questions which you might have after rewatching this this presentation. And also, we hope to work together with you on validating these features, validate that they work, validate the existing features, and invite you for more testing sessions and demos, perhaps in the near future. So please join there and work together with us. That's it. So thanks all for being with us, and wishing you a very good day.